Hey, it's your girl Cash. Welcome back to my channel. Today's video will be a story time. So I'm not sure what we're gonna title this story time. So let's just jump straight into it. So this story time had to take place around the time I was like 16 or 17, but we're gonna go flashback first. So when I was like 11 or 12, I was moved. I had I was in the system and they had actually found a family member for me to go live with. So when I'm not gonna tell y'all who the family member is because it's not important. We're cool now though. Love you, girl. But when I was living with her, I was just going through like a really tough time, and they ended up having to switch my original home middle school, which was H.L. Watkins, over to Bear Lakes Middle School because of the distance. So it's like I just felt so alone and like so left out because I wasn't fitting in at home. To be honest, I wasn't fitting in at school, and I just felt like didn't nobody understand me. So it's like once I had got to Bear Lakes, once I got to Bear Lakes, I was taking a band class and he was in band. So me and him, I'm giving too many details, but I promise you might think you know who it is, but it's so far-fetched. Even if you think you know who it is, don't comment it because you might be wrong, because I kept this boy on the hush-hush for years. Only way people would know we ever talked to each other is if he told them, because I ain't telling nobody except for y'all. So I'm telling y'all now. So yeah. So me and him actually ended up becoming friends because we were both in band, and he was like kind of helping me out because now that I'm grown, I won't say the band director was mean, but she was like very strict. And I'm not gonna lie to y'all. Y'all know, like, I'm not like the brightest. My common sense is not all there. And she gets annoyed by things like that. So he really had to guide me because she was one of the teachers who would yell at you and like single you out and make you run and stuff. And I know me, I was not gonna take that run. So he was just helping me stay out of trouble back then. So when we were in the 7th grade, I think he had a crush on me, but he never really said anything about it. But once we got to the 8th grade, like, he actually like started kind of to open up more. But it would kind of be like wishy-washy. Like, some days we would talk, he'd talk to me like I was a homeboy. Other days he would just be like super in love with me. So one day when we were in 8th grade, he finally he seen me walking through the bus loop to get on the bus, because we didn't take the same bus home at this time, but we did take the same after school bus. So we were walking to get on the after school bus, and he was like, oh, like, can I walk with you? So we were walking together, and he was like holding my hand and stuff, and I'm like, okay, like, this is sweet and this is cute and all, but it's like, what you got going on? And around this time, I was still messing with my first love. I'm not sure if I ever posted that story time, but if I didn't, I need to post that, because he doesn't play a part in this story time, but he plays a major part in other story times. So keep in mind, around this time, around this time, I lived like within walking distance from my school, and a lot of people used to be in that school's area because we had like a Publix and things like that. So one day I had walked to Publix to get me a sub, and I happened to see him and his stepmom in there. So he introduced me to his stepmom, and, like, he hugged me and everything like that. But he didn't introduce me as his girlfriend. He introduced me as his friend because we were just friends back then. But keep in mind, I actually have met the lady. That's off topic, but y'all will see why this gets important later on. Yeah, so I left him alone our freshman year, and I think around the beginning of our sophomore year, they ended up breaking up, so me and him became friends again. So it's like we used to talk here and there because we had, like, classes together. So, too many details. We had classes together. So we used to like exchange notes and things like that. So one day I had walked past him, and he was like, oh, hey, can you help me with the test? Like, I got a bad grade. And I was like, oh, I got a bad grade too. So us studying together was pretty much so pointless because it was the blind leading the blind. Whatever. But he was like, that's fine, we can still study together. I was like, okay. He was like, so can I have your number? Whatever. So I gave him my number, and then like I get a text message, like, I think maybe after school. It had to be after school, I think, because we was in cheerleading practice. I wasn't a cheerleader. I was just, like, cool with the coach. I was one of those kids. Don't ask why. So I get a text message, and it was like, oh, don't wear those tights no more. I'm like, who the fuck is this? Because mind you, around this time, this is where Instagram was popping. Kick was already dead. So I was giving everybody my number. So I'm like, who is this? And people used to play, like, weird tricks like that. Like, get your number and text you weird things in high school. Just being childish. So they were like, oh, don't wear those tights anymore. I was like, who the hell is this telling me not to wear tights? And he was like, oh, it's Bear. And I was like, oh, why can't I wear tights? He was like, oh, because you look good in them. So I'm like, okay. Red flag number one, because we was friends all throughout like middle school. So when we became adults and he was like on that type of time, and I was like, oh, this is a little bit weird. It's not that he was unwarranted. He was attractive, but I think I just wasn't focused on him at that time. So I just never paid it too much mind. So a couple months go by, we're texting, we're talking about like school assignments, and then we're actually starting to become friends because like he was playing football at this time, so I was starting to go to the game. So we started becoming friends, and it's like he would wait for me after the games, and sorry. So Fast forward a couple months, I think around this time it was football season, and we ended up becoming friends because he used to be on the team and I used to be with the cheerleaders, so we actually ended up talking and stuff like that. It was nothing like that. It was just cool. So one day we're on the phone, and I can't remember if this is like a regular day where I just left school and like was walking. Okay, so boom. So fast forward, one day I get off the bus and I'm walking home from the bus stop, and we're on the phone with each other. And he was like, "Oh, you got home quick. Where do you live at?" So now we basically started telling each other like what bus we actually take and like what route we take to get home. And he was like, "Oh, I take this bus." But we actually took two separate buses. And I was like, "Oh, that bus stop is like so close to my sister's house." He was like, "Really? That bus stop is like 2 minutes away from my house. Like, where does your sister live?" So I told him, because I used to always be at her house on the weekends, because I didn't really have freedom like that. So I would always have to go to her house when I wanted to go out. But I didn't really have freedom with her either. And this story time is kind of like one of the examples, because after this, she did not like letting me go out like at all. We figured out that his house and my sister's house are literally like 5 minutes walking distance away from each other. So I'm like, that's crazy that we've been living this close to each other this whole time, and like we never knew that. So he was like, "Yeah, so if you actually want to come over and study this weekend, like on Saturday, we can, because like my peoples ain't gonna be home." So this is where the story starts to take a turn. So now, I was young and I was dumb, but I used to play like I was smart. So I was like, like, how does your family feel about you having girls in the house? I said, "I know you said they're not going to be home, but I don't want anybody to come home and see me in there and it'd be like an awkward situation." He was like, "Oh, no, like, I'm a man. I pay bills in here. Like, they're not going to care. They don't have no problem allowed to have female company." Lie. That was a lie. That was a mother freaking lie. So I don't even know why I gave into it, because like, girl, we're in high school. The odds of him paying bills are not that likely. And even if he was, they still wouldn't give a damn. Y'all know how black people is. They don't care if you pay bills. If they just don't care. So if it's their house, it's their house. So I was like, okay, whatever. Like, I will come over. So here it is on Saturday, bright and early. I'm waking up, I'm showering, I'm listening to like, the little get ready music, whatever we was listening to back then. And like, I'm getting cute, and I'm like in the bathroom doing my hair. So my sister comes in the bathroom and she's like, "You up early, like, where you finna go?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'm finna go, I think I probably told her I was gonna like walk to the library or walk to the park, because she had like things close by her house, and I used to always go over there and chill for a couple hours, like when she would leave, because her house would be boring sometimes. So I used to go to the library and to the park and stuff. So she was like, like, you getting up real early, like, you sure?" And I was like, "Yeah." She was like, "Okay, like, when I call you, you better answer. Like, don't pull nothing stupid." I'm like, "I'm not." So I feel like somewhere deep down inside, she knew I was going to do something stupid, but she didn't want to accuse me. But she knew. So when he had woke up, he had texted me like at the ass cracking. It had to be like 10 a.m. at this time. And he's like, "Oh, are you ready? Like, I'm awake now. Like, you can come." So I'm like, "All right, whatever." So I told you our houses were so quick together. So like, as soon as I walked out of my sister's complex, like, he was waiting at the end of the complex, and we just like walked back to his house together. It was like literally like a 4-minute walk. It was nothing. So we're like talking and things like that. And I could tell from the point of like, soon as I walked into his house, I was like, "Oh, this is not going to be a study date. He's finna study me." Oh my God. So when you first walk in his house, it's like, y'all don't think I'm being funny. He was a Haitian. So y'all know in Florida, the Haitians always have those big, pretty houses. So he had one of those real nice, cute, big houses or whatever. So when you first walk into his house, his living room is on this side, but his living room is super big. So that's far off over there. So when you walk in, it's like, it's a little hallway right here. This part splits off to the kitchen, and this part splits off to the rooms and the bathrooms. So at the little part before it splits off where the wall is, they have a table right here. So this is the table where you put all your phones at, things like that. And then it's like you will walk down the hallway to go into the rooms. So when I walk in, I put my phone and my shoes and my keys like on the table, and I take off my shoes. Keep this in mind. So we like walk to his room. So like once we in his room, things were getting a little bit more spicy than they had I had no business doing what the fuck I was doing back then. But while things were getting spicy, his window was open. Because in Florida, like, I'm pretty sure it's everywhere. Them electricity bills be high as hell. So when nobody's home, a lot of people are just like, depending on what neighborhood you live in, they'll like crack the windows and turn on the fans. And that's what his family did. So it's like, they had to have the windows open so it could be some type of circulation in there. but his room window was open where we were at, and his like neighbors' houses were like side by side. So if their window was open, or if anybody was in like the backyard or the front yard, they would hear us. So I was like, oh, your window's open. Like, you know, do you want to close the window? He was like, we could, but if we close the window, it's like, you're going to be hot. So I'm like, okay. So I don't know why I didn't think like, well, we need to close the windows and just be hot because somebody's going to hear us. It's 10 a.m. on a Saturday morning. People are home. I'm not sure if people heard us, but I feel like that's how we got caught. To this day, that's always been my theory. It was when I looked up this in the room. That was cool. So when we were done, we had both went to the bathroom to like, you know, shower. So we're in the shower together, and I hear like the lock rattling, but not the bathroom door lock. It's the front door lock. So I'm like hearing it, and he's like, nah, like you're cool. Nobody's coming home right now. Everybody's at work. Like you're paranoid. Like focus on what we got going on. So all I hear is, Bear, you home? Bear, who shoot? Bear, who I said, oh, all you hear is his stepmama hit it to the bathroom. So now she like yanking on the lock. Soon as I heard her hit that lock, y'all would have thought I was a fish out of water. I jumped clean out the shower. So now mind you, now I'm out the shower and like I'm panicking because my clothes were in his room. I think I had like my shirt in the bathroom, but my clothes were in his room. So I grabbed his gym pants and I grabbed his shirt, and I just was like, I looked around and I just jumped out the window. Cause I'm like, there was nothing more that I could do. Now mind y'all, I was surprised that I even was able to make it out the window. I think that was just the fear and the adrenaline of it. Mind you, I'm soaking wet. So I jump out the window and I slip because I'm like, I still got soap on me, water, like I'm soaking wet. So I jump out the window, I slip, and I fall in the dirt. So mind you, while I was jumping out the window, I was throwing on a pants. So now I'm in his backyard, no shirt on, just with some gym pants, and I'm like running. So I pick up the shirt and I put it on, and I run and I hit it behind like the neighbor shed. Oh, this is so fucking embarrassing. This is like Mission Impossible. I run and I like hit it behind his neighbor's shed. So like I'm hearing her in there, and she is whooping his ass. She's like, why would you have a girl in here? Whack, 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 whack. She's like, whack. So I'm hearing it. So I'm like, oh, I'm definitely not going back over there now. So she comes outside and she's like, if anybody's back here, you need to come out right now. You need to come out right now. And I'm like, I'm not coming out. Like, I'm sorry. I feel like I've always told myself in any situation, you have to catch me. Like, that's why I don't commit crimes, because I would not sorry, YouTube, don't take this. I would not turn myself in. You have to come catch me. Like, I'm never going to make it easy for you. I'm so sorry. So, like, when she's saying all that, I'm just in the neighbor's backyard, and I'm like, oh, girl, like, I'm not coming out. So she stood back there for like 5 minutes, and then I heard her go back in the house and like slam the door. So then maybe like 3 minutes later, after I hear him, like her go back in the house and slam the door, I hear her car start up, and she like backs out the driveway and she leaves. And like I was peeking around, so I seen her car like head down the street. Cause I was like, her slamming the door, I'm like, girl, you probably still outside. You just thought she was gonna trick me. So I was like, the slamming the door does nothing for me. So after I seeing her like car go down the street, I heard him like come in the backyard. He be like, bro, you still out here? I said, yeah. So I said, like, so I'm mad at him, and I'm like, bro, come on, like, what the fuck, like, da-da-da. Who is that? Like, you said you could have company. He was like, oh, that's my stepmom. Like, she came home from work early. I don't know why, but she took your phone. I said, she took my phone? He said, she took your phone. He was like, she said you got to come back and talk to her to get it. I said, oh, absolutely not. Absolutely not. So he had bought me my clothes. Now, mind y'all, whole time, I just want to get dressed and go home and take a shower, because now I got to figure out how I'm going to get my phone back, if I'm going to even be able to get my phone back, because I had no intention of talking to this lady. I was like morbidly embarrassed. Like I was never going to speak to this lady. I'm so sorry. So I'm like in his house and I'm crying, but I'm like trying to find my clothes so I can get ready to leave. So he's like, oh, well, you know, can we at least do it again? Because it's going to be my last time seeing you for a while. I was like, I just walked out of the house, because I was like, there's no way that you want to do it again. Doing it is why we're in this predicament right now. I don't think me and you need to be around each other for a very long time after this. I don't think I ever linked with him after this too, because I was scared out of my mind. His mama put the fear of God in me. I never came back to that man's house. I've never really like spoke to him after this too much. After this, we was like hardcore beef, and it was not even funny. I go back to my sister's house, and like I'm in the shower or whatever. And then she starts knocking on the bathroom door, and she's like, you know, she's like, I'm calling you, like, where's your phone at? Like, why you not answering your phone? I eventually tell her that, you know, I tell her what happened, and she cursed me out. She cursed me out real bad. She was like, you know, how could you be so stupid? And she was right, because I had no business in that boy's house. Like, what if his stepmother would have came in, thought I was a stranger, and she like would have popped me? Because mind you, Florida's a stand your ground state. There would have been nothing that nobody could have did about it. Like, I had no business in this woman's house. I should have known better. But you know, my sister actually ended up going over there, and she got my phone from the lady. But my sister was even more mad when she got back to the house, because when she went over there to get my phone, the lady like went to talking to her and was like, oh, well, you know, like she looked at my screensaver and she was like, oh, like, is this you? Like, I've met you before. Like, you're a grown woman. How dare you come into my house? And my sister's like, that's not me. Like, you talk about my sister. I'm gonna include a picture of the sister that like she was talking to. People always get us confused. I would never know how, because I'm like 2 feet and like I'm taller than her, but people always get us confused. But like the lady went to going off on her, she was like, girl, no, wrong sister. But yeah, that would be the end of this story time. I actually do, oh no, let me tell y'all how me and him fell out. Sorry, no, I gotta include that because he tried it. So after that situation, I was just like so embarrassed. I'd never really spoke to him again. Like, I made it up, I think I made it up all the way until our senior year just without speaking to him. We had a class together. I just sat on the opposite side of the classroom and never said anything to him. Whatever. So one day, we had been knowing each other for a really long time. So he sent me like a picture of me from middle school and like a picture of me like in high school. And he was like, oh, you really let yourself go. And I was like, I haven't spoken to you in like a year or two. What is that for you to say to me? And I was like, I don't know. I was just so perplexed by that situation. And I think that honestly and truly, I might have wanted to do something to him. But at this point, I was done fighting because I did not want to like miss graduation. So I was like, you know, I really can't even say nothing about it. Because I was like, I didn't even respond to the text. Because if I would have responded to the text and he would have said something slick back to me, it would have been, I would have just lost it. I knew me back then. I was like, you know what? I'm just not even going to say anything. But, you know, he ended up getting hooked on drugs. So, you know, I'm not the only one that let myself go. Yeah, but that'll be the end of the story time. Thank you guys for watching. I hope that you all have a great day. And I should be posting 2 story times today. So by the time you see this one, it should be another one posted before it. Bye, you guys.